Hello and welcome to episode number 39 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And we're coming at you Sunday night, and the MLB Draft is happening currently. The Twins just selected Chase Petty, 26th overall, high school pitcher from New Jersey. High schoolers from New Jersey being taken in the 20s. There seems to be a good track record there. So maybe Chase Petty will be an ace, and maybe he'll be taken by one of us in our upcoming draft in January.
You just might. And right now, the Padres are on the clock, and MLB Network is showing in on them wearing, all the executives are wearing like the home run chain that the players wear after hitting a home run. Speaking of that home run chain, I'd argue one of the most impactful pickups of the week in our league. I added Daniel Camarena to the Yellow Champ minor league team, the Little League Yellow Champs, after his epic grand slam off of Max Scherzer. Who would have saw that coming?
Have you dropped him yet?
I have not. I've since taken the lead over Alex after adding him. So I think I might just keep him just for fun. We'll see how long this lasts. Like, if I win this week, maybe he's worth hanging on to. I don't know. Maybe be my little good luck charm.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so the Orioles took Colton Cowser in the draft. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I was, I guess, expecting them to go under slot, and they did. I didn't necessarily think that there was like an obvious pick at 5. I think they could have gone in a number of directions, and I would have been really happy. Cowser strikes me more as like a high floor guy with maybe not quite as high of a ceiling as maybe some of the other players that were on the board. I've seen some comps to Brandon Nimmo, and I'm a huge Brandon Nimmo fan. So if Colton Cowser is an ex-Brandon Nimmo, I mean, I think he'd be a very welcome addition to the Orioles outfield. And this pick doesn't wow me, but I don't hate it. It's not like last year, like I liked Kjerstad as the player, but like I just thought that like there were like clearly superior options, and I was really annoyed that they didn't take specifically like Austin Martin. This year, there wasn't that to that degree, so I'm more all right with them going under slot here. Although Dan O'Dowd had a good point on MLB Network earlier. He's like, a lot of the value in any draft just inevitably like is going to be from your first like pick or maybe your second pick. So like, try to just get the best player and don't mess it up. So I think that's just such a tricky question to kind of answer, how to balance wanting to go under slot versus maybe taking a player that you think is a bit better.
That's true. You do not want to mess it up. And 16 teams messed it up by passing on future Hall of Famer Matt McLain. So their loss. But seriously, though, he was projected to be in the 10 to 13 range or so. I feel like the Reds did get a steal there. College bat, maybe a shortstop of the future. And I feel like he's a great pick.
Yeah. I know that the Reds have another pick at 30 coming up, and one of your favorites is still left on the board, Ty Madden. If he gets past Tampa at 28 and the Dodgers at 29, I wonder if he's going to go at 30.
I would hope so. I was thinking he was an option at 17. I was kind of hoping they'd take him there.
I thought he was an option there too. I think he's clearly the best player left on the board.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of the Dodgers at 29, I'm kind of disappointed that they weren't able to take prospect Max Muncy, who the Athletics took a few picks prior. But then I realized the Major League Max Muncy was originally drafted by the Athletics and then found his way to the Dodgers. So maybe that exact thing is going to happen again. And maybe he actually sticks with the A's and they make up for their mistake of getting rid of the actual Major League Max Muncy. So, and Cam, you brought up the fun fact off the air that they share the same birthday. So just crazy,
Yeah.
crazy coincidence.
Yeah, I love that. I would love if both Max's Muncy find their way to the same team, both in real life and in fantasy.
Oh my God, could you imagine them playing on the same team? That would be, I mean,
How would they do jerseys? Like
I was
normally
just
if there's two people with the same last name, they do an initial, but they're you can't do that.
I think you'd have to do the first initial, middle initial, because we confirmed they do have different middle names, and then the last name on the jersey.
That would be confusing.
Yeah, could you imagine if they like batted like back to back, like uh, or like I don't know what position minor league Max Muncy plays, but what if they're like both infielders and like they both end up on the Dodgers? And you know how the Dodgers are, they like move players around everywhere and like you know, uh, maybe you have a situation where Max Muncy starts the game at first, and then the other Max Muncy comes in and plays first later in the game. Like it'd be wild. Um, and actually, the just drafted Max Muncy is also an infielder.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, they could be yeah, on the same thing. Do you remember a couple of years ago it was kind of a big story. There were two baseball players, two pitchers, both named Brady Feigl. They both looked exactly the same. They're both the same height, and they were completely unrelated. Do you remember that story kind of making the rounds?
They had to be long lost cousins or something.
I don't think they were. I think they were totally unrelated. They were both, in the minors at the same time. I don't know what happened to either of them.
Oh my God, you're not wrong here. I'm looking them up right now. One Brady Feigl hasn't pitched in the minors since 2019. It looks like it should his last picture. He's 30, and his last picture is with him in a Padres uniform, and the other Brady Feigl is in Double A right now, playing for the Midland Rockhounds from the Lansing Lugnuts. So I guess that means he's moved on up a level.
I guess so. And an even better example I just found, the Mets in the year 2000 had two pitchers named Bobby Jones.
Are you serious?
Bobby Jones, one of them was their fifth starter. He made 27 starts with a 5.06 ERA. The other was a reliever, made one start in 10 games out of the bullpen, had a 4.15 ERA. Two Bobby's Jones on the same team at the same time. I believe I heard something about this on Effectively Wild. They looked to see if Bobby Jones ever relieved Bobby Jones, and I don't remember what the result was, but that team made the World Series that year. So I think the Dodgers know what they need to do if they want to make it back.
Yeah, they need to give up literally everything for Max Muncy.
Yep.
And then
call him up.
The other Max Muncy. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this draft goes. The Reds are about to make their pick here after the Dodgers pick, and we will certainly keep you all updated with Cam's live reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you enjoyed his live reaction to the Rhys Hoskins, maybe it's a homer, maybe it's a double. Oh, wait, it's a double. You'll sure love his live reaction to this pick. But anything else draft related, or do we want to move on to last week's matchups?
No, nothing related to that draft other than in honor of the Major League Draft. The end of this episode, or as a segment in this episode, we are doing another fake draft. Last time we did the 2010 fake draft using the 2009 MLB Draft and international top players from that year to imagine what would happen if the date was January 10th, 2010, and it was all the teams in this league, randomized draft order, what we think the order might be, based only on information that was known at the time of the draft. So totally ignoring that Dustin Ackley was a total bust and Mike Trout turned into a superstar. And it was a lot of fun last time. And this year we are doing 2017, the final, which would have been the final draft before the actual inaugural draft of this league. So we'll be drafting players from the 2016 MLB draft, as well as the top international players. So that draft, Mickey Moniak was the number one pick, if you remember. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to everyone hearing that.
Absolutely. I am looking forward to that as well. We had a lot of fun recording the first draft that we did back in, I want to say like sometime in the fall. Oh, and Maddox Bruns has just been drafted by the Dodgers. So Ty Madden is still on the board.
Excellent.
We might just see him in a Cincinnati Reds uniform. Yeah, let's dig into the matchups here from last week. We're not going to spend as much time on them as we usually do. So we're talking about the matchups from June 28th to July 4th. Since we did not record last week, we figured we'd talk about them a little bit. There were quite a few close matchups, actually. We had a couple ties. Anthony tied Alex and Zach. Connor and Connor tied with EBO. And you just barely beat Andrew. The other matchups were a little kind of not as close. But were any of these matchups in particular you wanted to kind of dig into first?
Yeah, so let's, I guess, talk briefly about EBO. They tied Connor. Connor hasn't been playing very well as of late. EBO, they've now tied 6 times. Their pitching was atrocious. They had an ERA over 7. The whip was 1.39, but it was still good enough to win by kind of a lot. They did get a lot of doubles. In the OBP, the hitting seems to be turning a corner a little bit, but on the whole, disappointing week from them, and 6 ties is very funny.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that they'd have more ties than wins or losses at this point? I don't think anybody could have predicted that, but I knew they'd probably be playing some close matchups this year, just kind of given the way they've constructed their team, but I wasn't predicting this. What's strange is Connor is 7-5-1 record and EBO is a 2-5-6 record. So on face, it looks very different. But if you told me right now, like how much better one of these teams are than the other, I'm not really sure there's a big difference between these two teams with respect to talent. I think both Connor and EBO have certain deficiencies on their roster that are really preventing them from, kind of reaching a top tier of competition. With the only difference in my mind just being that Connor has been able to kind of pull out his matchups and EBO just has not been able to. It'll be interesting to see if EBO can sneak their way back into the playoffs. I know they're like dominating Ruthvik this week. And, they've still played some of these better teams really well. So there's a potential that they could, but and it's going to be an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I guess we can talk about the other tie. Anthony had a good chance to kind of keep pace with the top couple of teams, and he ended up tying Alex and Zach, who have been playing well lately. But overall, Anthony didn't even play so badly. Kind of a typical week for them. the low on base, good pitching, a lot of strikeouts, but the home runs were a lot lower than they would like. And it ended up with a tie, and just kind of unable to keep pace with me and Eric.
Yeah, I wonder if, and I know we talk a lot about Anthony like needing some more consistent starting pitching just with some of the injuries and stuff, but I feel like he's largely been able to resolve that by getting Gosman. He has Manoa up now, who's been lights out for the most part. He did struggle in the start this week, but otherwise, for the most part, has been great. And Trevor Rogers has been like what a find. Anthony added him on opening day. Oh, good for him for seeing what something in him from the beginning of the year. But I wonder if it's time he goes out and gets another bat.
Maybe.
Like Shed Long is not really cutting it. Guillermo Heredia isn't that great. I mean, you just lost Monty Grandal, so that's a hit on the offense. Although I believe in Zach Collins, who conveniently was drafted in that draft we're just about to talk about. So I just wonder if he might be better served. I mean, I don't even think he needs to be like a Bryce Harper, but like a solid mid-tier bat. I think could be pretty helpful for Anthony, just kind of looking at the type of week he had against Alex.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And yeah, I think that's a good summary of that matchup. Which one's next?
I feel like we have to talk about you almost losing to Andrew.
I think you're probably right. And
probably. Oh, wait, breaking news. The Reds have made their pick.
Oh.
And it looked like somebody was hugging someone inside the auditorium. No, maybe the Reds, maybe they haven't announced the Reds pick yet. I'm sorry to get you get your hopes up. Talk about your matchup with Andrew. It's commercial now. False alarm, y'all. False alarm.
False alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even play that badly, which is weird, but I almost lost to Andrew. I guess if he had gotten one more save, he would have flipped it. But none of the categories I won were that close, except for maybe doubles. I'm pretty proud of how my team played, honestly. I got 6 stolen bases. My OBP was above 375. Scored one of the higher run totals. The ERA and WHIP have been kind of bad for the last few weeks, and it'd be nice to have more holds. But honestly, it was more a result of Andrew playing super well. He had 49 RBI. He scored 44 runs, and I think he had like 25 through the first 2 days. The pitching was not great, but his team can hit, and I think they've proven that they're a decent hitting team on the whole.
Yeah, they can hit without the OBP, which is really interesting to me that he's like able to consistently put up strong offensive numbers in other categories where he's often finishing with a sub 300 OBP. I don't know how sustainable that is, although I do like a lot of the offensive pieces he has. Albies, Hayes, like Brian Reynolds, what a find he was. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team develops. So definitely one of the surprises. And you had mentioned that Andrew might be getting even closer to a playoff spot after this week, which we will be getting into later. But yeah, this has been a fun team to watch all season. So
oh, for sure, proving us wrong week after week.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about these other 3 matchups? I know they weren't super close, but Eric dominated Ruthvik. I took care of Daniel and Alex, and Clayton and Jake beat Yuki.
Yeah, not a whole lot to say. Eric is firing on all cylinders. Jake has now won 3 out of 4, and his one loss was against you. And he's currently facing the Fighting Bellies. So he's making a run for the playoffs now. Actually, after that slow start, which is a shame because I own his first round pick. but yeah, not a whole lot to say.
The only thing I'll add is that it's really interesting to me that I was flirting with a 400 OBP all of last week. And in fact, I went into Sunday having an OBP above 400, finish at 397. And then this week, with the exception of an OBP that was just above 300 on Monday, I have not had a day where I finished with an OBP above 300. So funny how baseball goes. And the Reds are making their selection. The commissioner is at the podium.
All right.
Let's see if I can read lips. Jay Allen, outfielder, John Carroll Catholic High School in Florida.
I have never heard of that person.
Well, the Tigers are up at 32. Maybe they take Ty Madden. The Marlins have a pick before them. I mean, if the Marlins could get Ty Madden after getting Khalil Watson, like
that would be a haul. That would be very impressive.
Yeah, I'd be pretty shocked, to be honest, if they were just seeing them pulling that off. But the Reds still have another pick at 35, so there's still hope. Maybe they
there is, and maybe Jay Allen's good. I'm not gonna say, oh, he sucks.
He's a number 3 prospect on MLB.com.
Number 3 available at the time he was taken?
Number 33.
Okay, 33. They took him 30. Yeah.
It's
fine. Maybe they've got a ton of bonus space. Maybe they're gonna drop a huge bag on Madden at 35 or someone.
Yeah. They're gonna need someone out there, to pair with Jesse Winker moving forward. Assuming Castellanos leaves as a free agent, and Akiyama's gone, and I don't really know what the Reds outfielders look like in the minors. So
Austin Hendrick is looking really good.
I forgot y'all drafted him.
Yeah, and Castellanos might stay. You never know.
Well, you're gonna have to fork out a lot of money for him that they're just not going to be willing to fork up. But I could be wrong. I personally hope he stays in Cincinnati because that's a great hitter's park, but
it is, and he's tearing it up.
No, he really is. Good for him. But yeah, unless you have anything else to say about these 3 matchups here, like we could briefly talk about this week's matchups. It is a bit of a unique week. It is an 11-day week. So the 7 days that were just played, and then Thursday through Sunday, with Thursday just being a Yankee Red Sox game. So these matchups now are about 2/3 of the way done. Any thoughts in particular? Anything notable that you would like to point out?
Well, I'm looking right now. I am currently facing Eric.
Yeah.
This is the matchup of the regular season so far. So far, and maybe the whole regular season. This is in a year where being number 2 is so crucial over number 3. Me and Eric are currently tied for that spot right now. The winner gets the 2 seed. The loser gets 3 as of now. And right now it's living up to expectations. Both teams are playing pretty well. Eric's got 90 strikeouts through 7 days. My pitching has been kind of rough, but I do have 5 saves, and my hitting has just been really outstanding. The 382 on base, 58 runs is the most of any team, and then the 55 RBIs. So we've both kind of come to play. He's beating me 7-5, but the week's not over. I can still easily flip ERA and holds and doubles. So there's a lot to be positive about. I'm not expecting to win, but I could see myself winning and kind of putting myself on the path for the second bye.
Yeah, well, I'd say a lot of these categories are still like close. So like, you're only down 1 in doubles. The they're down one in holds. ERA, there's a 0.7 difference, which I mean, the way some of these things go, that could change very quickly. So I think you're right. I don't think you're out of it.
And the thing is, I would be shocked if Eric flips any of the categories I'm leading. Unless maybe he hits a ton of home runs next week. But RBIs, I'm up by 19. On base, I'm up by
61.
So that's not going to flip. I've got 5 saves to his none. That's not going to flip. Up 18 runs. So really, at Homer, a lot would have to go right for him to even get 8 categories. So really, it's a max of 7 for him. And I've got some, and I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. But there's his ceiling is low this week.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I expect this to be a 7-5 matchup one way or the other, or maybe a tie if you could steal back doubles. But I'm not expecting much movement from where you all are at right now. And I think you're right, with just how important that buy is. I think the most likely scenario is that you two will play each other again in the semis in a 2-3 matchup, assuming whichever one of you is 3 beats the 6 seed, which I think is very likely to happen. And given how close these matchups have been, and kind of given the proclivity of the league this year to tie matchups, getting the bye could be the difference between taking a win and advancing to the finals if you all tie versus, going home. So it's tough. I think you both really need this. And I think Eric won your first matchup, right?
He did. He beat me kind of handily the first time.
So, I mean, if Eric wins again, he has a tiebreaker. That's going to be really hard to overcome. If you win, it becomes a lot more interesting. But I'm definitely going to have one eye on that matchup next week. Thankfully for you, you have 4 more days to kind of make a comeback.
Yeah, my ERA can't be 5.4 the entire week. Hopefully not, at least.
Well, Darvish did just land on the IL, so that's going to take away one of your better starters. We'll see how that affects you. But
yeah, a lot of Darvish looked hurt. And Wheeler made his one bad start of the year. So a lot of guys, same with Ryu, who have been pitching well for me all year, have decided to just suck this week. But yeah, that's just the worst time for that to happen.
Speaking of sucking, I think that's a great transition into my offense this week. As I have briefly mentioned, after forwarding with a 400 OBP last week, I'm sitting at a 258 OBP after 7 days, yet somehow still winning the matchup, including 2 of the offensive categories. My pitching started off the week like very, very bad. Like Woodruff was bad in his first start. Fried was bad. For some reason, I got really obsessed with Jose Suarez and thought that he was going to get it together. Breaking news, the Tigers have selected Ty Madden.
God damn
it. Wow.
I mean, maybe they're expecting to spend a ton of money on Matt McLean. But yeah, that sucks. I wanted him. I wanted Ty Madden.
That's wow. I did not see that coming. That is a great pick for the Tigers. Congratulations to all of our Tigers fans in the league for getting an excellent pick. And hopefully that makes up for your disappointment when Jackson Joby was the pick. Funny enough, they just showed a shot of Ty Madden and he was getting up right next to an Orioles hat. So I feel like he's got all those hats just waiting out, just seeing who was going to pick him. But yeah, go Tigers. But yeah, back to my team. Like I said, Pitching's been really well, although it struggled early in the week. And then the hitting is somehow keeping it close in some of these categories. I'm only down 3 in homers, 6 in ribbies. Runs, I think Alex has got pretty handily. He's up 17. I have a narrow leads in doubles and steals, and obviously the OBP differential is pretty big, but I got a realistic shot of maintaining the 7-5 lead. Hopefully my bats come back a bit fresher after the break. But also, I'm really in danger of losing my first matchup of the season. So I'm definitely going to have my eyes on that matchup, and hopefully this works out for me. But I've been pretty nervous all week, and I just need this matchup to be over.
I think you're going to be fine.
I hope you're right. But the other two matchups that I think are worth mentioning are Anthony is tied with Yuki. And when I say tied, Anthony is a .01 lead in ERA, and like some of these categories he's winning, he's not really winning by a lot. So I feel like Yuki kind of feels like he's more in control here than Anthony is. And this is Anthony coming off a week where he tied Alex and Zach. I mean, I know I mentioned you might need a bat earlier, and his 31 ribbies and 310 OBP this week might suggest that I'm right about that. But I mean, are you concerned about him? Like this roster, like his team? Like, what do you think?
I think I'm concerned. I think, I mean, just kind of looking at the standings, it would be, I can't see him falling further than 5th anyway. But yeah, the hitting has really taken a hit. I mean, he's got Shed Long starting.
He's had Shed Long in his roster for like a while. I feel like he's been like on and off that roster quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so. He's just a guy Anthony likes, I guess, but he really needs to have an active trade deadline if he wants to make the semis.
I think, and we'll certainly talk about this more as we get closer to the August 20th trade deadline, but I think that there is a small group of teams who I expect to be like very, very active at the trade deadline, or who should be active at the trade deadline. And I think that he might be atop that list. Just if he wants to be able to kind of close the gap in between him and like the tier of you and Eric. So I know he's already made a big trade getting Kevin Gausman, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can make some other moves that'll, really make him into a legitimate championship contender.
And yeah, so we're going to kind of keep it brief here since next week we'll have a full recap. But the only other story worth mentioning is I think Ruth Vick's team is broken. This is just a total loss year for them.
Yeah, Ronald Acuna turn his ACL is rough. And if you're moving forward and looking at this, I think you have to be concerned about how that's going to, first off, I don't think Acuna is going to be back to begin next season. It's a 9 to 10 month recovery timeline. I think that maybe you're looking at him coming back in like May next year. But then the other part of that is a lot of Acuna's game is his speed, his ability to steal bases. And for the top fantasy players, the ability to be a 5 category asset and get those steals is huge. So I wonder how that's going to affect Acuna moving forward. I don't think Ruth Vick has that much to worry about Acuna in the long term. Like, I think he's going to be fine. But I mean, he's given up a lot to get Acuna. Acuna is the face of his team. So this is, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. It's just rough. And I mean, not to mention he's got Bieber on the IL. Savali on the IL, Chris Sale, Dinelson Lamet, Gallen's been hurt all year. DeGrom has left several games with injuries. He rosters Eric Hosmer and Dylan Moore for some reason. Sal Perez is also hurt now, or he's banged up. Alex Bregman's on the IL, so you're right. He kind of made a sell move when he sold Tyler Mahle, and I suspect you're going to see a couple more of these, more into retool mode rather than like a rebuild mode. But I definitely think that he could sell some assets at their peak right now and maybe get some younger guys that are going to help him build a sustainable winner.
Yeah, injuries have just ravaged this team, and I think it's time to just kind of punt on 2021, get ready for next year. And because right now they are currently, if all the results from this week hold, they would be holding down the 8th seed right now, with Clayton and Jake in 6th, actually moving into the playoffs with the win over the Fighting Bellies, and Andrew, who is currently tied with the Off-White Sox, would remain in 7th. So being behind Andrew after 14 weeks, that's kind of not where Ruthvik was expecting to be.
No, and I thought that this was a top 4 team in the league kind of going into the season. I mean, I thought he had a fantastic year last year. He came damn close to making it to the finals. So definitely a disappointment, but some years this just happens. You have a team where it just, you thought you put together a good roster and things just don't work out the way you expected to because of injuries or ineffectiveness or like whatever. So I expect him to bounce back next year, but I think you're right. This year is close to a total washout. I still think he might sneak in as a 6th seed, but I don't have high expectations for him.
Exactly.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll mention is Connor is tied with Andrew, and this just feels very on brand for both of them. Connor kind of playing teams close, and Andrew kind of sticking in and kind of holding on to games. It'll be interesting to see which one of these teams is able to pull off a win, assuming they don't tie. But it's just so weird to me that Andrew is only 2 games back of Connor. And, if Andrew wins, he's only a game back of Connor. And we're talking about Connor is probably making the playoffs.
There's still a lot of time left, but the standings are kind of weird, especially in that 5 to 8 or 9 range.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch. I think there's still a lot of teams in this race. And you'd even see down even lower, maybe if Alex can win this week and be 4-8-2, maybe he's still hanging around. It's going to be interesting. The Reds have just selected a catcher, Matthew Nelson from Florida State.
I'd have to look into him.
Yeah, and it's Matthew Matheu.
Oh, interesting. That sounds French.
It does sound French.
He is not French.
He was the number 40 prospect on MLB.com from Largo, Florida. He was the 2021 ACC Player of the Year. He's 22 years old.
But yeah, was there anything else we wanted to talk about in regards to this week, or are we ready to do our segment?
Yeah, I think we're ready to do our segment. I think we'll take a quick break and then get back to you with the 2016 MLB Draft, or aka the 2017 rookie draft.
All right. Yep. See you on the other side.
Switch my core if I kill any pain. Look what you done. I'm a motherfucking starboy. Look what you done.
Hello and welcome to the 2017 M-SABR Dynasty Prospect Draft. The date, of course, is January 10th, 2017. That song you just heard, Starboy, of course, the number one song in the world right now. And it's great to be here for another draft, especially since, as you know, I am picking first after having the worst record in the league last year.
Yeah, all these years of losing, I'm sure they gotta kind of hurt you at some point. Maybe you finally trade that cachet of prospects you have for some real major league talent. And maybe one of these days we'll implement some rules against tanking so you can't just get the number one pick every year. But who am I to say?
Yeah, no, hey, I'm happy to have that pick. And there's no real drama surrounding that pick, of course. There are a lot of storylines, but number one is not much of a storyline. I've kind of made clear my intentions to take Nick Senzel, the Reds' third baseman out of Tennessee. He was drafted just this past year. He has torn up the minors. I've kind of made it my made a statement. Everyone knows I'm taking him. But after that, it's kind of wide open. All of the rankings seem to have all the top 5 or 6 players in totally different spots. So I really don't know what it's going to look like after that.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those years where there is not really a consensus number one overall pick. I know Mickey Moniak went number one overall to the Phillies. But it wasn't like there's no Steven Strasburg or Bryce Harper just sitting there at 1 ready to take. So definitely kind of interesting. I'm excited to see how this draft will play out.
Yeah, especially since there were a lot of guys who were top prospects coming in, some of the top ranked guys coming into the draft. They fell a lot further, but they're still highly ranked now and expected to be studs in the majors and expected to go early tonight, such as Jason Groom, who ended up being taken by the Red Sox. There was buzz of him going first overall at one point, and he dropped tremendously. And he's still number 21 in BP, so I'm expecting him to go off the board early. And Blake Rutherford, he's a guy, I don't want to compare him to Mike Trout, but he's a guy projected to go decently early in the first round. Ended up dropping to 18th, whereas Mike Trout fell a little further than that. But ever since then, he has just been skyrocketing up boards. He had a 186 WRC plus in rookie ball, hit 382. It just feels like he's on that meteoric rise that Trout was going into the 2010 minor league season.
It really seems like, the Yankees once had the chance to draft Mike Trout and kind of mess that up. So it looks like they'll be able to get kind of another chance at a Mike Trout like player potentially, with just how high Blake Rutherford has been rising and kind of all the comparisons. And given they do kind of have a lot of outfield depth right now with Brett Gardner in left, Jacoby Ellsbury in center, Aaron Judge in right. You have Aaron Hicks. And I know that they're talking with guys like Matt Holliday to kind of fill in a DH. So that looks like a pretty strong outfield for years to come. But, maybe Blake Rutherford can eventually, find his way into that mix.
Yeah, that's true. Judge is a guy, he's already 25, but it's looking like he's finally going to crack the majors. And this guy is massive, and he's just got power for days. I'm excited to finally see him.
Yeah, no, he really looks like he could be something huge for the Yankees, and excited to see too the kind of the 1-2 punch atop the lineup with Gardner and Ellsbury. You got a lot of speed up there, and some high OBPs, and they should really be able to set the stage for some of the young players the Yankees have, like Gary Sanchez, who was coming off a really strong 2016. Looks like he could be the next best catcher in baseball. And Chase Headley, Didi Gregorius, Starlin Castro there. So, it's going to be a strong infield, going to be a good Yankee team. But Who knows? Maybe Blake Rutherford figures into that mix eventually. But there's it's going to be fun. Riley Pint is also somebody that I have my eyes on. He was somebody I really liked. Coming out of the draft, and I know that. Now that he was drafted by the Rockies, and that's not usually a good place for pitchers. So I'll be interested to see how that affects where he's drafted. But I think he has some sky high potential here.
Yeah, I think Riley Pint is a bust waiting to happen. I said it on draft night. He's a high school pitcher who's throwing 103 miles an hour. There's no chance his arm doesn't fall off. And factor that in with the fact that he's going to Colorado, I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole.
See, I wouldn't either, but I think that the talent's there, and you never know what pitcher. I think any pitcher is a crapshoot. I think you're right. High school pitchers are especially crapshoots, but we'll see. Some team is going to take a chance on him, I am sure, in this draft, and we'll see who is willing to gamble on drafting a pitcher from Colorado.
It'll be interesting for sure. And I guess one more topic before we start is the international guys. Of course, Kevin Maitan is the guy who's getting the most buzz. I think he could be a top 5 or 6 pick in our draft tonight. He hasn't played yet in the minors, but he's kind of super young. He's only he hasn't even turned 17 yet, but the potential there with the Braves is just astronomical. He's rising up prospect rankings just everywhere. MLB Pipeline has him at 32. And the other guy worth mentioning is the guy who got the largest bonus, and that's Adrian Morejon. Yeah. And I could see, just a big pitcher, throws hard. Excited to see if he makes it in the first round, and if not, he'll probably be in the early second.
Yeah, just to talk about Kevin Maitan for a second here. I've seen some articles comparing him to Miguel Cabrera and Chipper Jones. I mean, those are some lofty comparisons. If he could come up with the Braves and be the next big third baseman for them like Chipper was, I mean, that'd be great. And they're also like best international free agent since Miguel Sano in 2009. I mean, that would also be something. I mean, Sano just recently made it to the majors. He won the AL Rookie of the Month in 2015 in August. So maybe Maitan will take kind of a similar path, and we'll see him winning some awards just like Sano.
Yeah. I mean, Sano hit 25 bombs last year. I'm still kind of waiting for him to break out, but he's if Maitan gets that power like Sano has, watch out.
Oh yeah. Well, Sano's young. He's got time. So
that's true.
It'll be interesting to see how he develops, and I think I speak for everyone in this league where I say I'm looking forward to see how Sano develops.
God, yeah, him and Buxton, that team is gonna wreck.
Oh yeah. Ooh. Yeah, add in a couple strong veteran free agent bats in there, and that's a championship winning lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But looks like the draft is about to begin, and I am on the clock. And with the first pick in the 2017 M-SABR Dynasty Draft, I am selecting Nick Senzel, third baseman for the Reds from the University of Tennessee.
Great pick. I think he is the best college bat in this draft. I personally, without having any sort of Reds bias like you do, would have taken him number 1 overall if I was you. So good for you for tanking to go and get this pick. Or I'm just a little salty about you tanking, but Senzel looks like he's going to be a stud in the majors, and I think you landed yourself your next best infielder. I'm sure that he will slot. Where do you think he's probably going to slot in the majors? Like second base, third base?
That's a good question. I guess I guess we'll see. I mean, they've got Eugenio Suarez, and there's talks. Uh, he moved over to third base recently because the defense was just so bad at shortstop.
Yeah.
But he's, I mean, kind of starting to hit a little bit. He's playing every day now, hit 26 homers. I can't see him being like a 40 home run guy ever, but he's hitting well. He's probably the third baseman for a little bit. And at second base, I guess it all depends on how Jose Peraza turns out. So I do have high hopes for him. I mean, Senzel won't be up for a few years anyway, so who knows? We'll see. Peraza was great this year.
I can see him being a fast riser, though, given that he's a college bat, drafted early, seems pretty polished. But I'm sure he'll slot. I mean, it sounds like Suarez might play third, and if Senzel can really solidify second base, you got an infield there with Votto at first, Suarez at second, Senzel at second, Cozart at short, Suarez at third. That would be really solid, and hopefully, for the Reds' sake, Suarez could really pick it up. I mean, yes, he was decent offensively in 2016, but leading the league with errors, with 23, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, it's looking like Peraza might be the second baseman of the future. And he's got that job locked down for now, barring any surprise waiver claims taking that job for the 2017 season. But really, Senzel feels like a versatile guy, and I like him.
Yeah, no, he should be. He'll be a good one. The Reds got a great player.
Absolutely. And Daniel and Alex, their pick is in, and they are selecting Mickey Moniak, the outfielder for the Philadelphia Phillies, taken first overall in the real life draft.
Yeah, I think this is a solid pick. I personally think that Senzel is going to be a better player in the majors than Moniak, but I think he was the number one overall pick for a reason. The talent is there. I know he is a high school bat, and maybe there's a bit more risk in drafting a high school bat than he would kind of drafting a college bat, but I think the potential is sky high, and he could be a perennial all-star for the Fighting Bellies. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, he's MLB has him as the number 19 prospect. Fangraphs is high on him. Baseball America is high on him. BP kind of a bit lower, and he didn't hit as well as Senzel did in the minors this past year. He didn't reach single A, and of course he's only 18, so that's not surprising. But the slugging was 409, so he's not hitting the ball super hard, just the one homer. But yeah, I agree. Just a really toolsy guy. I think he's gonna be a star.
Yeah, it'll really be interesting to see how he develops. I'm sure he will be in that Phillies outfield soon. I mean, I want to take a look at that Phillies outfield that just kind of wrapped up last season. I don't think it was the best team here. I mean, this is a funny one. The three outfielders that got the most playing time were Cody Ash in left field, Odubel Herrera, who had a surprising year in center, it was a Rule 5 draft pick, and then Peter Borges played right field. I know he's a very good defensive.
Peter Borges was on the Phillies last year.
Yeah, he was.
Good old Cody Ashe, though.
Yeah. Couple former Orioles too got some outfield playing time for them. Jimmy Paredes.
Never heard that name.
He, for some reason, Buck Showalter in 2015 was like, I'm gonna let this man DH every game and bat second. He was basically a replacement for Nelson Cruz, and for a while, it was Machado, Paredes, and Adam Jones was their 1, 2, and 3 hitters. It was a really weird, dark time in Oriole history. And then David Lowe was also a former Oriole. He came to them in a Danny Valencia trade with the Royals. Was with them for 2014 and 2015. And was a bit better in 2014 and 2015, but never particularly good. So Mickey Moniak would be a welcome addition to this outfield.
Yeah.
Your point.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of good prospects. I mean, JP Crawford is just going to be a superstar.
Oh, yeah.
At shortstop. Rhys Hoskins is a guy. He seems to hit the ball hard. I don't know him super well. And, of course, Scott Kingery. So these four guys, plus maybe if Maikel Franco turns a corner, and maybe Cody Ashley sticks around, this team is going to hit in a couple of years.
Don't forget Tommy Joseph, 21 homers and 315 ABs. He could be something.
And then Sixto Sanchez in the rotation.
Oh, yeah. And then Aaron Nola, too. He's 23 and Zach Eflin at 22. They look like they could have a future. Alec Asher, who came over in the Ken Giles trade. Vince Velasquez. So it's going to be interesting. This is a fun group of players that they have here, and maybe they'll actually be competing for something in a couple of years. Under
Ben Lively, the Reds gave him to the Phillies for Marlon Byrd in 2015, and now he's looking like he's going to be a star in that rotation. So if the Phillies don't win a World Series by 2021 or whenever, that's going to be a shock.
I'm sure Pete Mackinnon is going to get these guys in shape, and they're going to win a championship in short order.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, looks like Eric's pick is in, and he has taken Jason Groom, starting pitcher for the Boston Red Sox.
Oh, interesting pick. I think Jay Groom is probably the best pitching prospect in this draft. Especially given his landing spot, not landing in Colorado like Riley Pint did. I don't know if I would have taken him over Kevin Maitan necessarily. I think there's been a lot of hype for Kevin Maitan, and just seeing some of the comparisons, I think that he might be just like a real stud and the best pick there, but hard to go wrong with who MLB Pipeline ranked as their top prospect.
Yeah, Groom is looking good. Pipeline has him 40th. BP has him 21st, so they seem to be higher on him than anyone else does. And yeah, he dropped quite a bit in the draft, like we said, but he is the Red Sox number 3 prospect at the moment, behind two bona fide stars in Benintendi and Devers. And it's the off-field issues that bugged a lot of teams. And he is a high school pitcher, which is a little iffy, but Eric really likes that curveball and likes the potential of his stuff and thinks he can be an ace for his team.
Yeah. Good for Eric. I think that, he does have a potential ace on his hands. It might take a little bit of time. It might be a bit kind of, frustrating with somebody off the field or character concerns. And, he is a high school pitcher. There is some inherent risk with that. But I think there's a potential for a real stud front of the line pitcher there that confront Eric's rotation for years to come.
Mm-hmm. All right. Looks like Yuki's pick is in, and he has selected Kevin Maitan. You just mentioned him, the future third base shortstop guy for the Braves. And he's got those Chipper Jones comparisons. I like the pick a lot.
Yeah, I think this is the right pick for Yuki at this point. I think Maitan's going to be really solid. I know that there's a bit of inherent risk with some of these international players, but just kind of given some of the comps for Maitan, and just given how highly he's ranked. I mean, like I said, highest ranked international free agent since Miguel Sano in 2009. That's 7 years, people. That's a lot of time. So I think Yuki has a potential stud on his hands, and it's going to be a lot of fun watching Maitan come up in this system. He might take a little longer than some of these other players currently because just for how young Maitan is. But boy, when he makes it to the majors, maybe even at like 2021, oh, he's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. I will say, though, I feel like most of these guys get big comparisons at one point or another, get compared to someone who's good, like a Chipper Jones type. So I'm not going to put too much stock into that. And also, these guys are insanely risky, the big international guys. But yeah, super high ceiling. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just kind of projecting the best case scenario here. I really like the tools and the skill set, and I'm just buying in on him. So I'm not saying he's going to be Chipper Jones, but I think he has a solid major league career ahead of him.
For sure. And yeah, the next pick is Clayton and Jake. Their pick is in, and they have selected the guy that Fangraphs thinks is the best prospect who was taken in this draft, and that is Corey Ray, the outfielder for the Milwaukee Brewers. He was taken number 5 overall in the actual draft as well. He was taken out of the University of Louisville, and just a stereotypical speedy center fielder.
Yeah, I like the power speed combination here. I think he has the potential to be a solid bat. I don't know if he's going to stick in center, but I think he'll probably end up in one of the corner outfield spots. And I just think he's a solid overall player. With some of these toolsy guys, it can be a bit risky. It's kind of hard to know whether those tools are actually going to develop. And I know there was some chatter, before the draft that he might be more of a bottom of the top 10 pick rather than going into top 5. So maybe he got drafted a bit higher in the MLB draft than he should. But regardless, I think that the potential is there. It seems like Fangraphs is really high on him. So maybe something comes of this.
Yeah, maybe. Like you said, the power speed is really something you want from a center fielder. I think he can certainly stick there. The numbers in the minors weren't amazing. The 101 WRC plus in high A, but the fact that he's already in high A, and he's been decent. I mean, on base of 307 isn't great. He's not walking that much, but I think he can rise quickly and be in the majors shortly.
Yeah, you think, we could see him playing next to Ryan Braun soon, and maybe someone like a Domingo Santana who had a really solid 77 games kind of coming up here in 2016. And Kirk Neuenweiss started in center for them a good chunk of the year. So maybe he could replace him. I don't have that high of expectations for him. Although Keon Broxton was also in the outfield for them this year. He had 75 really strong games. They had a 354 OBP. Showed off some wheels too. 23 stolen bases in those 75 games. Can you believe that?
That's really quick.
Yeah,
that's a lot of steals.
It's a lot of steals. So maybe it might be a crowded outfield mix for now, but I'm sure Corey Ray, could potentially break into that.
Yeah, I mean, you forgot Lewis Brinson. He's a top 20 prospect too.
Oh wow, how did I forget Lewis Brinson? Yeah, he's great. Yeah, assuming they're not trading him away for some reason. I think he's.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'd trade him for an outfielder who's more major league ready, but.
Yeah, I could see that. That would definitely be interesting, because the Brewers are definitely at some point going to want to make that push to win, like they were trying to do in the Greinke days or that half a season they had Sabathia. I doubt that one of these players is going to be able to make a move in the infield, but maybe they could replace a guy like a Eric Timms at first base, or if Travis Shaw doesn't work out, he just came over into Tyler Thornburg trade, maybe one of those bats, maybe Ryan Braun could play some first base, for example, kind of as he ages, so and give some space for Corey Ray. But it's gonna be fun. This Brewers team has some fun players.
They do, yeah. Hopefully, the Cubs aren't going anywhere anytime soon, but maybe the Pirates and the Cardinals can start sucking for a while, so that the Brewers and the Reds can make their big push.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm sure Senzel, when it's all said and done, is going to play a bunch of playoff games and win some playoff series MVP. So I'm sure the Reds will make it into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like EBO's pick is in, and they're taking Riley Pint.
God damn. Matt Manning goes on the board for a Tigers fan. You think EBO would be all over that, but like I said, I really like the player. I hate the landing spot in Colorado for a pitcher. When was the last time a pitcher got drafted by Colorado and was successful?
I mean, was Ubaldo drafted by the Rockies?
He was.
Your favorite player. Are you scarred still? Can you hear the name Ubaldo after the playoff game last year?
Yeah, we're not talking about that. I will say in 2015 he had a 4.11 ERA, which, given we're paying him about $12.5 million a year, that's not that bad.
He sounds like he's definitely better than the best closer in baseball.
Yeah, why Zach Britton did not get put into that playoff game still haunts me, and it will haunt me forever.
But we're not talking about the Orioles. We're talking about Riley Pint and EBO. Do we have any more thoughts about him?
I really like the talent. Maybe he gets traded somewhere else and he becomes really good. But I think, like you said at the top of the broadcast, he's going to be a bust if he stays in Colorado. You think he's going to be a bust, period. Am I right?
I do. His arm's going to fall off. There's no chance this is sustainable. Sorry.
Well, fair enough. There we are. EBO, you made a bad pick. We're sorry.
Hey, someone had to see that velocity and think it was worth going after. I mean, he's in the top 50 of most lists, so he's the best player available by what most people would say. They're going by the board, and they love flashy tools, Zane and Max.
That they do. They are all about the glamour and the flash, and we'll see. We'll see how that works out for them. We'll see if that ever leads into a championship. The very least, they'll have fun doing it.
They will.
They will. They always do.
Yeah. And it looks like Ruthvik and Nick, their pick is in, and with the 7th pick in the draft, they have selected Kyle Lewis, outfielder for the Seattle Mariners, taken 11th overall out of Mercer University. Let's talk a little bit about him.
I'm going to quote Jim Callis here for a second, and I think that this is a really interesting perspective. He said, quote, "What a steal for the Mariners. If I owned the number 1 pick in this draft, I would have taken Lewis there. I think it's the best combination of ceiling and floor in this draft." He is all in. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go that far, but I think Kyle Lewis is going to be a stud. 11. He fell to 11, which was kind of a surprise, but he tore up low A for the Aqua Sox. Great name. And the walk rate was almost 12%. So this really feels like he can keep this up, hit well through the minors, and be in that Mariners outfield. And I mean, I know hopefully it doesn't take Mitch Haniger's spot. I think I've said several times he's my pick for Rookie of the Year. But yeah, Kyle Lewis, I'm on board. MLB Pipeline is on board. They have him 29th already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, great pick. Surprised you fell this far.
It's a shame Greg's not in this league because I'm sure Greg would be all over him. But yeah, I mean, I do know what you said about Mitch Haniger because I think he is going to be very good this year. I think he has a lot of potential, along with Gene Segura slotting in at shortstop for them. I think it's going to be a really fun duo there. I think they've greatly improved their offense, next to Robinson Cano. You have Mike Zunino still there, great defensive catcher. If you ever get that bat to be a bit more consistent, he's going to be really good. You have the ever awesome Kyle Seager. I think Ben Gamble, could be a pretty solid fit in that outfield as well. It's going to be a fun team. This Mariners team finished with 86 wins last year. I mean, could we finally see them make the playoffs?
I mean, I'm kind of buying into it. I really am.
I really am too.
This is their year.
You look at this rotation too. I mean, you got James Paxton, you got Felix Hernandez. I know that Felix was not quite at the top of his game last year, but he's still very, he's got that track record. And speaking of track records, they have Giovanni Gallardo now, who was very solid in Texas in 2015. And I know he struggled with the Orioles, but we all know what happens when you go to the Orioles and you're a pitcher. You're not as bad as you are when you're with the Rockies, but you're still bad. So I'm sure he's going to bounce back in a place like Seattle, where they're doing a really good job with their rotation here. So I got some high hopes for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. And Andrew's pick is in, and he is selecting a guy we talked about a lot off the jump. That is Blake Rutherford, the outfielder for the Yankees. Pipeline has him 37th. BP and Fangraphs also have him in their top 50. And I've already compared him to Mike Trout. Who are you comparing him to?
I mean, I think the Mike Trout comparison is spot on in terms of his rise. I don't know if he quite has the talent that Mike Trout has, because, let's be honest, nobody has that talent. But I think Blake Rutherford's going to be up very shortly, and he will be dominating that Yankees outfield for years to come. I mean, can you imagine a 3-4 of the order of Judge and Rutherford? That's going to be deadly. And then, you think about it too, the Yankees are probably going to sign all of these big free agents that, you're going to be able to pair with them. And it's just going to make for a really fun outfield. The Yankees will have some new big free agent playing the outfield. So I'm sure it'll work out for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it looks like Anthony's pick is in, and he is taking Matt Manning, the Tigers' first rounder. He's a big pitcher. What else is there to say about him other than, he's a top, kind of in the back half of the top 100 on a lot of lists. I feel like maybe his value gets pushed up a little bit because he's on the Tigers. He didn't pitch amazingly in the minors. Actually, that's not true. His FIP was really solid and 14 Ks per 9. Okay, so maybe a little unlucky with those earned runs. We've heard what all the Tigers fans in the chat are saying. They're confident about him.
Yeah, maybe he could be the replacement for Justin Verlander. Maybe he is the next Justin Verlander. And maybe they'll be able to rebuild that rotation, draft a couple guys in the next few years who could, be the next Scherzer and the next Price, next Rick Porcello for them. They really need to.
Cy Young Award winner Rick Porcello.
Yeah, look, Rick Porcello had a really good season in 2016. I don't know why the Tigers got rid of him for Yoenis Cespedes. They kept him for half a year and then dumped him off. Get that Michael Fulmer is solid, right? But Rick Porcello is 27 years old and just won a Cy Young. I mean, what He had a 3.43 ERA in 2014, and that prompted the Tigers to trade him for half a season of Yoenis Cespedes. Like I'm baffled here. The Rick Porcello hype train is on full blast, and I mean I think he's really going to peak the next couple of years, and I think he's really going to become something special. I think he's already proven it this year. 2 of his last 3 years, he's at sub 3.5 ERAs, and I'm all on board. He won 22 games.
I mean, 20 wins, who cares? And Verlander was better. I mean, Porcello put together a nice little season, but Verlander was better. I would have voted for Zach Britton, but
I would have voted for Zach Britton too, but Rick Porcello, man, he was good. He was good. He lived up to the hype. I'm very proud of Rick Porcello.
Yeah. I mean, you're allowed to feel that way.
Yeah, I'm allowed to feel that way because I'm right.
All right, but it looks like Alex and Zach have made their pick, and they are going to stop Ian Anderson's slide. Anderson was taken 3rd overall by the Braves, the second Braves player taken thus far in this draft. Maybe kind of a little unexpected that he was the second one off the board, especially since he was, like I said, taken number 3 overall. Yeah, high school pitcher is a little difficult to figure out how good he's going to be. They're super risky, but yeah, I mean, he pitched solidly, very solid actually, in the minors, in the GCL and with Danville. And I mean, he's still super young. He's kind of in the back half of a lot of top 100 lists. And I think that Alex and Zach really made a good pick here.
Yeah, I if I was EBO, I would have drafted him over Riley Pine. I think he is a better player. I think that he fits in kind of with this timeline for the Braves of contention, where they have a lot of these interesting young arms in the minors. And I think he's going to come up and be the next in a long line of really solid arms for them. Just looking at this right now, they have Julio Teheran anchoring that rotation. I mean, he's only 25. I'm sure he's going to do that for years to come, but they didn't really have too many other starters who impressed this year or in 2016. Matt Wisler had a 5 ERA. Aaron Blair had a 7.59 in 15 starts. Williams Perez, a 6.04 in 11 starts. Like Mike Fultonevich was okay. 22 games started, 4.31 ERA. So there's going to be plenty of room for Anderson to break in. And I think he might rise kind of quickly through that system. I feel like the Braves do a really good job of developing starting pitching. And I think he can make an impact in the majors in short order. So solid pick for a team that really needed another arm.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 4 55 future value pitching prospects, Colby Allard, Anderson, Max Fried, and Luis Gohara. And then Mike Soroka's not that far behind. Sean Newcomb's not that far behind. Joey Wentz. So this team is just loaded with prospects. Then, of course, there's Swanson and Albies and Acuna. So this, I mean, especially the rotation, but their top couple guys are hitters. Braves are going to be good, and Ian Anderson is going to be, hopefully, a big part of that rotation.
Oh, man. Can we talk about that Dansby Swanson trade for a second? I mean,
oh, my God. They ripped them off
so badly. Badly. What were the Diamondbacks thinking? Draft Dansby Swanson number 1 overall, and you just dump him to the curb. And Ender Inciarte, too, who I think is very underrated. A nice defense, solid speed, and Aaron Blair I think has some potential, although he struggled this year.
And then immediately Shelby Miller goes and sucks it up.
Yeah, sucks it up. The injuries. I mean, Dansby did good. 145 plate appearances. He had a 361 OBP in 2016.
Man, I mean, you look a little bit at Shelby Miller's 2015 and you see, okay, he was 24. He had a 3.02 ERA and a 3.45 FIP. you can kind of say that you're trading for a young, maybe ace type guy. And maybe the overreaction about, oh, he went 6 and 17, who cares? So maybe if you're kind of thinking that way, but God, I mean, Dansby Swanson, how can you trade the number 1 pick right
Yeah,
after drafting him?
it's still regardless, it's still a lot to give up, even if you think that he's an ace. But definitely interesting to see how this played out. So for them, not a good first year, but maybe they'll get it together at some point. But I'm not particularly confident that that trade's going to be a win for the Diamondbacks anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you are picking 11th. Do you want to announce your pick?
Yeah, with the 11th overall pick in the 2017 M-SABR Dynasty Baseball League Draft, the Big League Yell champs selects AJ Puck.
AJ Puck. I still think it's funny that you've named your team after a very average hitter on your team. I mean, Yelich is solid. I like him, but he's not your best player.
Okay.
But yeah, Puck's a great pick. Love that.
He had the Gold Glove in 2014. He was a Silver Slugger winner last year and was 19th in the MVP voting.
He's a good player. I like him.
Yeah, he's a
the
good
worst
player. He finally jumped in home runs. He had 7 in 2015 and only 9 in 2014. But he had 21 this year. He had 98 RBIs. I am all in on the Christian Yelich hype train. Mark my words, Christian Yelich will win an MVP when it is all said and done. He will win.
I mean, the Marlins would love that, wouldn't they?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, look at the outfield of the talent, though. You have Yelich, you have Ozuna, you have Stanton. I mean, I know everybody's like, oh, Stanton's going to leave as a free agent. I bet you he's just, going to join the Yankees. But, he seems like the type of guy that the Marlins, I feel like, are going to lock up and build their team around. They have to. They can't just keep getting rid of everyone. But Stanton seems like he will be the face of that franchise for years to come. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about AJ Puck. I am a huge fan of AJ Puck. I get that he's had some knocks because of his inconsistency at times. But I think that the potential is there for him to put the entire package together. And if he does, he will be a frontline starter. And I also think the worst case scenario with his slider, that'll help him kind of be a dominant late inning reliever if it doesn't work out for him in the rotation. He was the highest drafted player that had not been picked yet in our draft. I get that there's some interesting bats kind of like later on in the draft, but I don't think any of them really stood out with some of the upside that Puck does, just kind of looking at like a Josh Lowe or a Will Benson or an Alex Kirilloff, for example. I don't think they jump off the page as much, or even like a Gavin Lux. So I'm pretty confident here with my pick of Puck. And I think that he has the potential to anchor my rotation for years to come. Or if not, I think I have a top 5 closer.
Yeah, I mean, Puck for a while was the consensus number 1, at least over the winter.
Yeah.
And he kind of, you remember people saying suck for Puck.
Yeah, suck for Puck, baby.
And
that could have been you, but you took Senzel.
Yeah, you didn't suck and you got Puck, and the A's didn't suck that badly and they got Puck. And yeah, he's going to be a star. And yeah, I know some of the shine has worn off, but he's a good one. You're lucky to have him.
Yeah, hopefully he'll actually lead me to a championship. Kind of disappointing to finish in second place behind a team who's about to pick. But, I'm sure that there are plenty of championships for the Yellow Champs in the future. I'm sure there might be a drop-off, at some point as some of these guys get older. But I'm sure led by future MVP Christian Yelich. Don't doubt me on that. It's going to happen. I just said it. I just spoke it into existence. This team, I think, is going to be a winner. So we'll see what happens.
We shall see. And And making the final pick of the first round is Connor. Congratulations on the championship once again.
Yeah, man, this team is good.
They are. And they are taking in true to their fashion of taking a lot of the White Sox, they're taking Zach Collins, the White Sox catcher, and I think it's a fine pick. He's kind of in the 80s or 90s on a lot of prospect rankings. MLB has him at 81, and maybe a little bit of a reach. But if you want to take White Sox players, now's your chance.
Yeah, they're going to be really good in a couple of years when some of these guys actually come up and able to make an impact. But I think Collins is a pretty solid pick. I feel like he's more of a bat first catcher. So I'm curious to see if he moves off the position eventually, maybe play some first. That's where I think his value would really take a hit. Although Jose Abreu is there. So I don't think that spot is necessarily open anytime soon. But if he could stick a catcher, I think he has top 5 fantasy catcher upside just with his bat. So I don't know if he necessarily hits that potential, but catcher prospects are such a crapshoot. So
Yeah, you might as well, if you have one you like, try and stick with him. And if not, like you said, they're a crapshoot. He's not super tied to him. That's the end of the first round. Anything else you wanted to say about these picks?
I was just looking at I forgot who the 2016 the catcher was for them. It was Deoner Navarro, and I know now that they have Omar Narvaez kind of up there, he looks like he could potentially be interesting. He had a 350 OBP last year. He limited at bat, so maybe he becomes something. And I know Alex Avila also got some playing time for them. So it's it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But I really like Collins. But yeah, I don't have anything else to add about the rest of the draft. Are there any players that you expect to be picked kind of early in the second round? Do we want to preview that?
Yeah. So we're not covering the second, but we have few players in mind. I know Cal Quantrill was the one that sprang to mind the most. The pitcher in the Padres organization. He was great in the minors. I mean, in low A, 13.5 Ks per 9 to less than 1 walk per 9. He looks great. I'm surprised a tiny bit that he wasn't taken already by now. And maybe I can take him. Yeah. And the one other guy I wanted to mention was Delvin Perez. He was the Cardinals' first round pick, and he was kind of in the middle of the round, but he's rising up quickly on a lot of boards, and I can see him getting taken soon too.
Yeah, I mean, he felt that pre-draft PED test, so that was kind of rough, but the talent is there. There's a couple names I have my eye out on, or eye out for. One of them is Josh Lowe, who is both a hitter and a pitcher. So Jim Callis has given him Adam Wainwright comps. He says that other scouts are talking about that. And I think he could be a good defender, both in the infield or in the outfield. There's a lot of raw power. So if the power comes together, I think he could really be an impact bat. But man, I mean, could you imagine a two-way player in baseball? I mean, I know you kind of have Babe Ruth doing that like back in the early 1900s, but could you imagine a player doing that today?
I mean, I guess the most recent example, Micah Owings did that a tiny bit. And then, of course, Madison Bumgarner is a great hitter.
Yeah.
But he couldn't do it full time. And Zach Greinke can hit. But I mean, God, a pitcher and a hitter.
Man, I love me some Micah Owings. But yeah, a pitcher and a hitter. I mean, it's really got to be a pitcher or a hitter. Like, you can't be both.
That's how it normally works. But maybe this guy can change that.
Just maybe. It'll be interesting to see. But the only other player that really I have my eyes out on that you hadn't mentioned is Alex Kirilloff. out of Plum High School in Pittsburgh. What a name for a high school, Plum. Of all the fruits you can name a high school after, like why not like an apple or like a banana, maybe even like a grape, a type of berry? But no, you name yourself after a plum. But anyways, he won the perfect game All-American Classic Home Run Derby last summer. So you know that the power is there. And I feel like that he's just, I don't know if he's the flashiest player, but it seems like he's average or better tools kind of across the board from some of the scouts, that I've read. So I'm excited to see, he might just kind of be that kind of mid-tier high four guy that one of these teams drafts in the second round, and maybe he pays off. I mean, I'm sure he'll probably just end up being like a fourth outfielder, just kind of knowing how these things go, but maybe there's some potential there.
Yeah, maybe there is. Braxton Garrett, one more guy that I like too. I see him going early. And Adrian Morejon, we mentioned him early on in the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that's all there is, excellent job in the first round, everyone. And hopefully we can look back at this in a few years and think we all drafted well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be fun to see how these players develop. And for everyone's sake, I hope nobody drafts Cody Sedlock. I did not like that pick for the Orioles. Not as bad as the Matt Hopgood pick. If y'all remember me a few years ago when we did our 2010 draft, I spent a good chunk of our broadcast shitting on Matt Hopgood. And Cody Sedlock's not quite Matt Hopgood bad, but he's not.
Not many people are.
Yeah. So don't draft him. I promise you I'm not. Actually, can I mention one more player? There's one more player I want to mention. And here's a guy who came out of Mississippi State. I've done a lot of research on him. His name's Dakota Hudson. I've seen some people being like, you're getting great value there. I'm just not seeing it. I get that he has like a solid fastball and a slider, but 2-pitch pitcher. I don't see him really becoming an impact starter. I don't see it. If anybody drafts him, I'm going to be similarly disappointed.
Well, okay.
Yeah, that's my one rant on a random player who was drafted late in the first round. But Dakota Hudson.
Yeah, always good to have one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah,
see if he ever makes the majors.
We shall see.
But
yeah, thanks everyone. Second round coverage will be in the Slack, and everyone take care.
Yep, take care.
This podcast is good.